Hi everyone, thank you for coming back to Reality with Tea. Today, even though it's very hot outside, I'm sipping on Twinings Mandarin Orange and Honey Bush tea. And it's sweetened with a little bit of brown sugar. It's very hot, so I'm gonna take a very small sip. And I got this mug from one of my coworkers for Christmas. I hope everyone is doing well, and I have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. So on last night's episode of 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After, I'm actually going to start today with Larissa to get her over with, okay? So Larissa, for some reason they're following her storyline, and it's really, I'm hoping that she is doing it, and I'm hoping she's putting on this front as like an airhead and all of these crazy things she's doing just because she's trying to get the TLC check to help her kids out in Brazil. Because to me, I would never make this type of fool of myself. I would never make this type of fool of myself with or without cameras. But I guess the only way I would do it is if I needed to feed my kids. So because she's hopping around like she's a teenager. She's moving in now with Eric. She's telling her friends, and then from the behavior that everybody is putting together that Eric has displayed and Larissa, like they're both ridiculous. They don't need to be there with each other, and this is all a waste of time, but I'll go through this very quickly. So she starts out with, my friend was upset at me, so she didn't talk to me, and Eric couldn't come in the house, so I had to pack alone. Whoop-de-doo, so do the rest of us, because that's what you have to do when you're an adult, okay? She's moving in now with Eric and his roommate, and so she tries to, when she meets him, she's trying to connect with him on talking about how she plays video games. Again, I'm hoping that she does this with her son or sons. I don't know if she has 2 boys, 2 girls, what it is, but to me, she's too old for this, okay, for this whole situation, okay? So, blah, blah, blah. She moves into her own room, the whole thing. She ends up, I guess, one day when Eric is out of the house, looking in his phone and finding out that he has been texting some girl while they were broken up. So she, of course, like a teenager, decides to call the girl. And the woman says to her, listen, I went with Eric to his house. He was bad-mouthing you, and it was really, really bad. He was bad-mouthing you. He was talking about you and Colty being intimate. He was talking about you and him being intimate. He really hates you, and he has no respect for you, and I'm really surprised that you're even back with him. And it got, they were so chatty, and she ends up talking about, it's just vulgar things that she's saying. Oh, he said that you were like this when you gave this one, this sexual favor, and then you also did it to this one. And it's pretty embarrassing and ridiculous to have this broadcasted across national television or international television. Whoever's watching this, I would have never filmed this phone call. I would have never done this phone call, because to me it's just like scandalous. And she's a mom, but I don't know if she really cares. So you end her segment with her being very upset. The producers are asking her what you want to do, and I guess next week she's going to confront Eric about it. But actually, it was getting really good, the scoop that the lady was giving us about whatever the guy was telling Larissa's family, but then Larissa had to hang up really quickly because Eric was walking into the house. So I guess we'll find out next week, how she resolves this with Eric. Moving on, we have Asuelu and Kalani. And she begins her segment saying it feels like she's battling a teenager. And that sums up Asuelu for me. The way his behavior is as if he is a teenager. And also, I don't mean to sound harsh, but I don't know how she even talks to this man. She seems like a pretty articulate, maybe well-educated woman. And to me, I don't know if it's a translation thing or if it's now my job, my school psychologist thinking is, does he have a cognitive delay? Or is it just a language barrier? And I'm not sure. You guys can tell me in the comments, because I don't speak a second language. And, I know that English is not his first language. I don't know how that works. But it really seems like he has trouble. I don't know, first of all, his conversation is just elementary to me. It's almost that of a 2nd or 3rd grader. And it would drive me crazy because she is really able to communicate pretty well. So with him, you're getting back 1 and 2 word responses, and the way that it just, I would just be very annoyed, and it would feel like I'm talking to a kid or a teenager. But he does apologize for his behavior when they were on the way to California. And then he starts talking, and then we get this plot twist. His mother and sisters live in Washington State. Actually, one sister is in Utah, and they live in Utah. So one is in Salt Lake. And he has a mother and another sister who live in Washington. So now I'm like, okay, you did all of this crying and boo-hooing because you couldn't go home to Samoa. But mommy is right, is only, you know, a few states over, or I don't know my geography, but she's not far. She's within the United States, and you don't need, you know, passports and green cards to get over there. Like, just go see your mom. Why hasn't your mom seen the kids yet? Like, it just, why hasn't the mom even been over? Why haven't you guys been over to visit in general? Like, it just seems so weird. So we find out later that I guess dad is over in Samoa. So maybe it was just, he just wanted to be in his own environment, around his own people, and see dad. I don't know what the relationship is between he and dad, whatever. But it was just like, your family is here. You could have been around them, or you could have gone by yourself. Like, I'm sick of your family, Kalani. I'm going to take a week's break and go be with my family, whatever it is. Okay, so they end up calling mom and one of the sisters. Mother lives with one of the sisters, and they're on video time. And so the mom, you know, she's talking, she's quirky, she's praying for them, she says that she's happy for them, but it seems that there is a little bit of bad blood between Kalani and his family from the past, because apparently every time, I guess the culture is that you send home gifts or money when it's needed. So, and I've heard that from a lot of people from a lot of different countries. A lot of people feel like if you kind of make it and get to America, then you should be sending home to your family to take care of them. Now, what is expected from each person, I don't know. I guess it differs. But it's interesting that the mother said a specific amount. She said, you know, she said, I know. She was kind of, and I think they kind of did like this, which is, to me, that kind of signifies greed a little bit, like, ooh, I'm about to come into some money. And he said, you know, I know you're going to bring me gifts. What are you bringing me money? You know, and then he says, well, how much do you need? What do you need? And she says, the mother says, $1,000. Okay. I don't know what she needs it for. She's staying with her daughter that is, I guess, they're from American Samoa. So they are already American citizens. They don't need, you know, passports, green cards, the whole thing. They can come and go as they please. So they're living in, she's been here for a while. So, you know, he's kind of like, I don't really have that, you know, I have to pay for for bills. I have to pay for my kids, you know. And let me jump back. He and Kalani had a conversation before the call where she said, and also they told, you know, they told us, the viewers, that they always ask for money. Kalani never lets me send the amount that they ask for. They always send less. And I guess she's annoyed because it's like they always have to send this money, but they don't have any. They're literally living with her parents because they have no money. She can't work, and he's working in like the mall kiosk at a frozen yogurt stand, I believe. So he's probably making minimum wage. So she says to him, don't throw me under the bus. And I'm guessing he doesn't understand that phrase because he's saying, I won't throw you the bus. I'll let you drive the bus. So I thought that was kind of funny because now they're in front of mom and, you know, he says, I don't have the money. You know, I don't make that much. And the sister jumps in like, well, you have to take care of your family first. We come before anything. And I don't know if she's realizing he now has his own family. And actually, they come first. Those kids and his wife come first now. But, you know, she has this demeanor like she wants to fight, you know, like, you know, you have to take care of us first. And that's interesting because mom is in America. She has been living here. So you guys know it's not cheap to live here. And also, you know what he's doing, or they should know his job. So the fact that you even expect that much from him just seems insane to me. You know, so he now backpedals. He says, okay, you're right. He seems like a yes man in his family. And that happens, you know, okay, you're right. I'll give you $1,000. And Kalani's sitting there like, you know, and I feel like I'm trying to remember if during that conversation Kalani says we can't send that much, or Kalani said, I don't know if it was something, but he definitely threw her under the bus, which is what he said he wouldn't do. And that's why I'm thinking he didn't even know what that phrase meant because she's like, he always throws me under the bus. And honestly, I think that it's very uncomfortable for him. And in that situation, in that moment, it's probably easier for him to throw her under the bus to his parents because it's like, I can work this out with you later, but my mom, I don't want to disappoint, or I don't want to get in trouble with my sister, my family. And some some people are like that, especially when they come to the States. We've seen that a lot, even on this show, where they're like, you know, send me this, and the wife is in the States like, we don't have this. But everybody thinks that when you get to America, the streets are paved with gold as soon as you get there, and if you're working, you're making all this money, so send it to us and help us, because that money is going to go further where we are. But it's weird that, I mean, if the sister's taking care of the mom in the United States, and you know he just got here and he can't get a good job, why you're demanding that much money from him. Okay. Okay, that's all I have on them. Remember, I'm doing this, I'm going through this quick and easy, but I'm just, you know, I'm keeping my notes on my thoughts here, so make sure I don't forget my thoughts, like Andre says. Okay, so let me go to Angela and Mike, okay? So we start out and they're driving in the car and she's telling Mike how to drive. Now, mind you, they are in his country. He has been driving there for however many years. I know when I go to a different country, pretty much I feel like every other place I've been, in America, they drive crazy. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm buckling up and I'm praying and I'm holding on to the sides. I would never tell somebody who is a native of that country and who knows the roads and knows how the folks drive there, how to drive. But she's like, oh, they're cutting you off. Don't let them do that. First of all, last time they didn't let them do something, the other men jumped out the car on them. And Angela, you know, feeling like, you know, using all her white privilege, I'm white, so I'm right, hops out and thinks that she can like fight these men for her man, which I wish I was doing these reviews back then, because I thought that was completely insane. I was like, this woman is going to get herself really messed up and is going to be on camera. But she's telling him how to drive, and this is all her preparing him for when he gets to America, when she's going to be controlling every single move that he makes and micromanaging him as if she is a principal at a school. I won't say where. So she's talking to him, you know, she's still talking to us about, you know, the women, and I can't believe he had me sit down there with women and this whole thing. And I'm just thinking, so he's never going to be able to even have a conversation with a woman? I mean, what is going too far? Can he ask them for directions if he's lost? He's supposed to come to America and act like he doesn't see them? Like, it's just, I don't know what she's going to expect from him. And I don't know what he expects for himself, because this just sounds like it's going to be a recipe for disaster. And it's all because of her insecurities. So now they're in the car and they're talking about, I guess mom and sister are going to come over to their apartment in Nigeria to eat. And she's telling him, it's my apartment. And they're going back and forth. He's like, it's our apartment. And she's like, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. And he's like, it's our apartment. And she's saying, well, I pay for it. And that kind of is the mic drop, because I guess she's paying for it. So she says she gets to say, this again is going to be how it's going to be when he gets to America. In the beginning, he cannot work. So she is going to have the final say on everything. That's what it is. He wants her to cook for his family, because in Nigeria, that is how they show hospitality. I guess the woman cooks, mostly the woman cooks. The husband might help out a little bit in the kitchen, but you're not going to see him in the kitchen that often. So she's like, you know, cook for, it's mind you, it's one time, cook for my mother, you know, and sister when they come. I'm not cooking. You need to know how it's going to be when you come to the United States. I don't want them to expect you, them to expect me to cook for you when you come to the United States. You're going to cook for your parents, and that's it. I'm not cooking. I'm order a pizza, an American pizza, and that's fine. So they're going back and forth about that. Listen, let's go to the market and pick up some food. So market is outdoors. And immediately she's already, here we go with the, oh, they touch the rice with their hands. Do you have any rice that's pre-processed in a bag? At one point she says, do you have a grocery store where they have air conditioning and all the food is processed? Maybe not, Angela. That's Americans. We eat all that processed food. It's not even good for us. Over there, they eat, their food is fresher. Their food is, you know, they put it out and then it's eaten. So it doesn't have to be frozen and processed, and, you know, because it's coming from only like within a few miles. So no, they don't have that. You're someplace else. You're going to have to do, you know, like they say, do like the Romans do. Okay. So she's talking about the smell, the meat smell. Oh my God, it's making her so sick. And then and let me talk about the smell very quickly. I was driving through Amish country in Pennsylvania, and the few times that we, you know, went past or in the area of the butcher shop, oh my God, that smell was horrific. And it lasted, it was like to me for miles. Oh, like you could smell it from miles away. And it is stomach, like it turns your stomach. So I don't know if that's what Angela was smelling, but if so, I can kind of understand where she's coming from because we're not used to that. But when she walks upon the goat head, that's when she completely had it. She had to go all the way to the car and ended up getting sick. And it was this whole big dramatic thing. And, you feel bad because I felt a little bit bad because you don't want to make it seem like, oh, I'm too good for this, I'm better than this, or what have you, because that's the way that they live. But we're just not used to it. So for her to actually get sick, I was like, okay, she's really is unable to stomach what's going on here. But then she starts talking about, I might have malaria. Angela, that's not how you get malaria. Am I right? Doesn't it come from mosquitoes? Leave me a comment. I think that's if you get a mosquito bite, but okay, whatever, Angela. So she's yelling, I'm not Nigerian. I don't shop this way. I don't do this. We know. I think everybody there knows that you're not Nigerian. I don't think he's trying to turn her into a Nigerian wife. He's just trying to adhere to some of the customs that that his family and all of the society that's over there that they adhere to. So that's what he's trying to do. So she's trying to tell him, when we get to America, you'll be cooking, you'll be doing all that stuff. I'm not going to be doing all this stuff. There you go again. He's going to be her butler. That's what she wants him for. I think that she fetishizes him. And she wants him to come there and be the babysitter and the butler, just like Louise. And he doesn't really have a good idea that is what she wants, or he does, and he just wants to get to America so badly that he doesn't care, or he feels like he's going to stick it out until and then go off and do his own thing. So the mom comes over and the sister comes over, and they are first they start talking about they're happy to see Angela. Seems like mommy thinks that she's nice, and they all embrace her, and then they're waiting and they're seeing Mike cook. I think he tried to make some fried plantains and rice, and they're kind of, this look they have on their face is of disgust. They're like, men don't do that here, and they kind of don't like it. And I guess whatever he cooked wasn't really healthy. The sister's like, my mother doesn't even want all this fried food with all this oil and grease and blah, blah, blah. So then Angela actually does save the day because she got them a pizza and mommy likes it. So, it ends up being that way. But I guess next week she's going to end up telling Michael that she possibly has cancer. That's what they're testing her for. She seems very, not nonchalant, but it's just, she's just kind of saying it matter-of-factly. Maybe because she said, her mother, I think, has had cancer a few times. It ran in her family, and she is kind of, expecting it at some point in her life and just feeling like, okay, I can beat it type of thing, or maybe it just hasn't hit her, but we'll see how that comes out, next week. All right, moving on. Let's go to Debbie, Colt, and Jess. I forgot Debbie's name last week, so I saw one of the bloggers or the vloggers call her Debbie Downer, and I thought that was funny. But I like to see her point of view, and I don't think that she's always a downer. I think that she has sense, and I think she has more sense in some areas than Colt does, because she sees what he's not able to see. He's blinded by, I don't even know if it's love, it's just infatuation. He's into Brazilian women. I think that those type of women he's into may not be into him in America. So he is completely like, oh, this person's into me, they love me, they're willing to come over and deal with, me, possibly my mother and all my mess, so he's kind of blinded by all that. And she's seeing something that he's not seeing, but I'm gonna get to that, right? So they end up going over to Jess's family's house, and the family's planned a barbecue for her. So the dad begins by asking if he is just into his daughter to pass the time. And I think that he is just into his daughter to pass the time. He's saying this whole thing about love, love, love. You've only been around her one time, now you're meeting her family. I think, like I said, that it's an infatuation. Colt is, even though, mom thinks that these women want to be with Colt, for money or the green card or the whole thing, I think Colt wants somebody around, but he's not stupid, because remember, he wouldn't give Larissa much of anything, okay? I think it was even a little bit extreme. You know, he's a software engineer. I guess he makes pretty good money, but he would often be like, no, I'm not buying this for you. This makes no sense for me to buy. If you remember, he was driving around in a car with no AC in Las Vegas. So he seems like he knows how to hold on to his money. So I don't think he'll be taken advantage of in that way. But that's one of Deb's biggest fears, one of them. Okay, so the mom starts out by asking the rest of the family, they're talking, I don't like Jess at all. Okay, I think that she's very airheadish. I think that she's rude and disrespectful, because Deb is her elder when it comes down to it. So there's a way to express yourself that isn't disrespectful, and she doesn't choose that way. So Deb just asks, the family, does anybody else think that this is moving too fast? And granted, somebody had to translate that, but I don't even think that I don't think that Jess translated that for her family. I think she just immediately started being rude and disrespectful. At one point, she called her a son of a bitch. At one point, she put her hand in Deb's face. She was kind of talking over her. It was to me, it was just very rude. Number one, she was a guest in their home. Number two, I think she only did that because the adults at the table didn't understand what was being said. And also because Colt didn't cut her off when he should have. At some point, I think he did say, take it easy on my mom or such. But I just thought I think she's very disrespectful. Debbie has her own issues, but you're also going to be you're trying to be her daughter-in-law. And she's an adult. She's an older woman. So I just don't talk to elders like that. So Colt decides to put his mother, he says, in a cab and send her back to the hotel. And she's like, you're going to send me by myself? And I understood. Number one, I don't think they put her in a cab. I think the producers took her back to the hotel. But him being the man, your mother being an elder of sorts, you need to make sure she's in a foreign country for the first time in her life. It's nighttime. You're in Brazil. You don't know what's going to happen. You should have taken her back to the hotel and then come back to Jess's home, because you want to make sure your mother gets home safe and you want her to feel safe. So number one, he lost points for that. Okay. So then, the next day he talks to Jess, and because the mother, told him she was being disrespectful to me. So the next day, Colt and Jess, they hook up on the beach, and as soon as he tries to put her in her place, she kind of just says, oh, Colt, you're a baby boy, and this and that, you're a mama's boy. And he says, he kind of starts standing up for himself. I'm not a mama's boy, or you're a daddy's girl. The same way that I'm looking for approval from my mom, you're looking for approval from your dad. So, stop calling me that. I don't like it. You need to take it easy on my mom. So I was glad that he did stand up for his mom in that way, because, she needs to be taken down a few notches. This is a new relationship, and you're already feeling yourself a little bit too much. You're a little too confident. So you got to calm down. Okay. All right. Now we have Paul and Karine. So we see Paul in the car with his two dogs we didn't know he had, that apparently he's been paying for their paying rent at some, I guess, training facility for these two huge dogs, which I know isn't cheap. But he finally takes the dogs out, and he has found one of them. I think it's a mobile home studio. It's small. He got a little AC that he can put in the window, and it's like a room, but it's clean, and it's a lot better than the other places that he took her to in the beginning. And I think it's fine. I don't know that she could expect more from him. She knows that they're coming back together, so he doesn't have a job yet. He didn't have any money saved. Mom isn't helping him out, so this is a good start for them. So I was proud of Paul. Like, Paul, you got something together, and you did it pretty quickly. And he's scrubbing the refrigerator. He's getting everything together. Karine comes, and she likes it. The only thing they need is curtains, and then he put up some temporary curtains, which were the sheets and the pillows, until the next day. So Paul, finally, I'm glad you stepped up and you did your thing. Okay. Now we have, and right now the favorite, they get a lot of airtime now. We have Andrei and Libby. So this week, dad and brother show up. They fly in. So, okay, Libby's family. I told you how I felt about them last week. So I still feel the same way. They are bougie and sedity, and Libby did say that her family is bougie, but I think that they're also uncultured, and they are, I like Andrei said, they've been living in South Florida for 30 years. That's fine, but I just feel like they haven't traveled. Like I feel there's something very insensitive about them. And they have a reason to be insensitive with Andrei because he is what he is. He's a jerk. I think that he's abusive, and he's, you know, all these negative things that that's their experience of him. So I do see why they would be that way. But I also, they're turning me off, okay? Because as soon as they land, they're kind of like, they're complaining from jump before they even give everybody a hug. This is the airport in Moldova. We had to land in Finland. Now that was an airport. Now Moldova might have a regional airport, okay? So it's a small city, town, small country, whatever it is. Okay, it's okay. Like you have smaller airports in the United States, okay? But they're already throwing shade at everything. So at one point, I think they say, oh, we'll be lucky to make it back. Does Amazon deliver here? Is Walmart here? Do you guys have barbecue? Do you guys have salad? And they're just like crapping all over the country. But they've only been here less than 2 minutes. Andrei is driving. He's trying to keep it cool and quiet. But it's what they're just saying is just so ridiculous. Just shut up and look out the window, you know? They're just asking all these weird questions. So then they ask him, well, what did you do here in Moldova? And he says, you know, I was a policeman, and I think it was for about a year. And they're asking questions. He comes out to say, I was doing paperwork. I was a detective. And they just, they laugh at it immediately. Like, what you're saying is so ridiculous, right? I can see why Andrei doesn't like them. I can see why they don't like Andrei. The whole time Libby is silent because I'm sure that had to be one of the most uncomfortable rides of her life. But at the same time, she is used to being very uncomfortable when her family is around Andrei. So, or when they're without Andrei, because they talk about Andrei all the time, apparently. So she's just sitting there quiet. And I'm sure she's kind of like, oh my goodness, why did my family could have just stayed home, because I don't even want to deal with this. This is how the trip is starting. This is going to be a freaking disaster. Okay. So I think he takes them straight to his mom and dad's house, and they say something like, oh, so this is where you grew up and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, they come to the home, and the mother, even like the first time when Libby got there, she sets up the table. You know, they're in a small apartment, but she sets up the table with like literally 20 or 30 plates of different types of foods. She really makes a spread, and it's pretty amazing. And they're so hospitable. They're happy to see them. They already liked Andrei's dad because he came to America before, and he's just a very, you know, pleasant, calm, quiet soul. So they already made a connection with him. The mother is very welcoming, you know, so they you know, the father does acknowledge, like, you know, the spread was amazing. They really have a nice home, and they honestly seem like good people. So everybody's getting along, and then all of a sudden I think the brother just comes out and says, seems like he's trying to be joking, but it was just in it was at a bad time, and it was in a weird, awkward way. But he says, so was this guy really a detective, you know? So then they start saying, well, they're like, yeah, he was a police officer. He's explaining he didn't make much money. You know, Andrei's kind of trying to guide the conversation. The money was bad. You know, the circumstances were bad. And then the brother and the sister are talking about, I forgot who brought up that he doesn't work in the United States. The brother and sister are saying, yeah, but it's, I'm forgetting who said what, but somebody says, well, I thought it was because Libby didn't want him to work. And then it comes down to him saying, yeah, Libby, you asked me not to work. You know, don't say that. And she's like, I did at one point, but I can change my mind. Now, I'm trying to figure out, when was this point? I'm guessing since she's working, she kind of said to him, you know, you stay home with the kid because I can trust you. There was a conversation, but you have to be careful with conversations you have with people like Andrei, because he's going to take it to the extreme. Oh, remember you said I should stay home with them. She probably said that because you weren't doing anything anyway. So it's like, you might as well stay home. But that doesn't mean forever. And I remember before the kid came, he wouldn't work. He went to get his truck driver's license. He got it, but then when they tried to give him a job, he said, oh, I'm not going to make enough fast enough, so I'm just not going to work. You're just not going to work. You can't walk onto a job with no experience and figure you're not going to start from the bottom. Yes, truck drivers can make a lot of money, but you have to start somewhere. Okay, so you have to build experience. And the lady told him that, you know, at first she'll be on an on-call basis, and then hopefully we'll get you on the schedule regularly. Oh, no, I don't want that. What? Like, and Libby's father paid for him to go to this school. Are you kidding me? He tried to set you up so that you can have a skill, and they always need truck drivers, and you decline that. And so then I think his brother asked, well, did anybody suggest for him to get a job? Yes, Libby's father tried to hire that man or put him on several times. You came to America saying you were good with your hands. So the father, who owns, I think he flips houses or does renovations, whatever it is he does, said, I can use you. But Andrei was so proud, he said he didn't want to work for her father. I don't want to be under your father's thumb. So the father mentions that. So then they're saying, so now the sister and the brother are like, yeah, this is unusual because here the men work, and he worked when he was here. I don't know. Now you can kind of see where they're seeing the picture, because in the past, Andrei's translation has been, Libby wanted me to stay home. This is how they do it in America. She wants to be so this, and she wants me to stay home with the kid. And, he should have never been okay with that. He's using that as an excuse because he likes to sit home and watch video games, and he likes her to work, and he likes to live off of Libby's father, who he thinks has all this money. And, you know what? Honestly, they're allowing him to. So why would he think anything different? Every time this man demands Libby to go ask the father for money, she does, and the father gives it. I don't understand, again, the dynamic between Libby and her father, because why? Or is he afraid of Andrei? I don't know. At the same time, even if you were afraid of him physically, or maybe afraid of something he would do, you don't have to sign that check. So I don't understand why the father keeps giving these large amounts of money, and and he never says, I would just want to know his reasoning as to why he can't stand up to his own daughter. Or maybe they know something about the situation she's in that we don't know. And just so I can change my opinion, I had a very strong opinion last week about her and her creating a menu for her family who's coming from America. And I do feel that way, but then somebody brought to my attention, a friend of mine, that the father is paying for this wedding. So you know what? I kind of take that back. Maybe they do need to have chicken fingers and fries and hamburgers and hot dogs and whatever American food, pizza if they want at that wedding, because they do need to appease her father and her family because he's paying for the whole thing. So I forgot about that. I was saying, they need to, you're going to a new country, you kind of need to, acclimate. It's not your wedding, it's up to the bride and the groom, but forget that. He's paying for everything. The father probably need to be choosing the menu. So I changed my opinion. Okay. Let me make sure I have nothing else on Andrei and Libby. But, oh yeah, and I wrote to myself, when he is talking to the producers at one point, he says something about Libby is being very unstable. Maybe it's her hormones. Maybe she's just being dumb. The vocabulary that he uses to describe his wife is so disrespectful. It is insane. And it's so demeaning. And it's, to me, that I honestly think that she is in an abusive relationship. Since I've been a teenager, I've had a keen ability of seeing when things would become abusive in certain relationships I've seen around me, or controlling. And I think now it's more than controlling. I definitely think there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't see. If you have a chance, look up the clip on YouTube. It's like 2 or 3 minutes where they were both talking to E.T. and they did an interview with Entertainment Tonight, I believe. And tell me what you think, because Libby kept making excuses for him and they laughed it off. They asked him, they were grilling him about his behavior in Moldova. And she was laughing it off, like, oh, they make it seem like he's rude. Oh, it's the language. Oh, the way that people talk in Eastern Europe is so abrasive and abrupt, and it seems like that. And even Libby has said in the past, Andrei is rude. But then in this interview, she was like, no, I don't really take it as rude. I think it's this. I think it's that. And, looking back, we kind of laugh because it did, no. She is covering up something. That woman is scared of that man, and I'm scared for her. So I'm hoping that, I don't want anybody, I don't like this to say, I hope that she doesn't stay with him, but for whatever reason, but for her safety, I think she needs to get out of that ASAP for a lot of different reasons. Okay. So next week, they show the coming attraction, and at the same dinner where they're grilling Andrei and putting Andrei on the spot, and he's saying, wait a minute, you guys are putting everything on me. You see, he and the brother, they're about to stand up and fight because, I guess he said, I guess they're going back and forth. It's getting more heated, and whatever was said, somebody felt threatened, and then you see both of them stand up, and Libby's kind of in between them to separate them. So I'm excited to see that. I'm glad somebody is standing up to Andrei finally. And my opinion, though, I don't think anybody's gonna beat Andrei at that table. I think Andrei can take Libby's brother down, but I guess it's just a show of, you know, who has the biggest wings at the moment, and we'll see how that plays out. So thank you so much. Please leave me comments, give me some feedback. If you don't like my opinion, tell me. And I know if I'm, you know, politically incorrect or all these type of things, just tell me. I don't really care, but it'll be good to know, because you know, I want to hear from you guys. So thank you. Please like the video, subscribe, and leave me comments, and I will hopefully see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.